The sound of breaking glass echoed through the supermarket. Sudden silence. "You liar!" The accusation cut through the air like a blade. Everyone froze. Among the glittering shards of a jar of shattered jelly on the floor, two strangers stared at each other. On one side, a woman trembling with rage. On the other, a tall man with eyes that had seen too much. No one could have imagined that this accidental confrontation would forever change the lives of everyone who witnessed it. Thomas was in the produce section, carefully examining some tomatoes, his military bearings still evident, despite the simple civilian clothes, khaki pants, and a faded polo shirt. At 45 years old, the lines on his face told stories of experiences that few could imagine. He had chosen to shop at this time for a specific reason: fewer people. As a veteran dealing with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, crowds made him tense. But that day, the supermarket was busier than usual, causing him discomfort that he tried to disguise. Thomas was concentrating on his shopping list, a technique to keep his anxiety under control, when a shrill voice tore him from his thoughts. "That's him!" she screamed, pointing an accusing finger. "I got you!" Thomas froze, his body instantly on high alert. Adrenaline, like a familiar tsunami. The world around him slowed down. Distant sounds. Tunnel vision. The woman advanced, waving her cell phone at him. "I have the photos! You hit my car and ran! Coward!" The jar of jelly slipped from Thomas's suddenly numb fingers, exploding on the floor into 1,000 fragments. Sandra Davis, marketing manager, single mother, already 15 minutes late for her daughter's ballet performance, couldn't have chosen a worse time to find the alleged culprit for the dent in her new BMW. Or perhaps she couldn't have chosen a better time. Smartphones rose up around. A burly security guard began to approach. An elderly lady with a shopping cart stopped to watch, her eyes shining with the promise of free drama. "Ma'am," Thomas finally managed to say, his voice low, controlled, with a tremor imperceptible to almost everyone. "I think there's been a mistake." "Mistake?" Sandra advanced further, invading his personal space, dangerously close. "The only person mistaken was I, believing that there are still decent people in this world. I have your license plate right here." A vein pulsed on Thomas's temple. To the observers, it looked like contained anger. To his therapist, it would have been a clear sign. Imminent flashback. And here, in the midst of the chaos of a supermarket, surrounded by strangers, with a woman shouting inches from his face, Thomas Mason faced a silent choice: react or respond. Reacting would be easy. The body already knew how. The muscles begged to go into defensive mode, create distance, protect, escape. But then, something unexpected happened. Thomas closed his eyes for 3 seconds. Exactly 3. When he opened them again, something had changed. Not in the situation, but in him. "Can I see the photo? Please?" His voice, gently authoritative, carried a calmness that didn't match the moment. Sandra blinked, confused by the sudden change in the confrontation script. She hesitated, but held out the phone. Thomas examined it carefully. And then, to everyone's amazement, he smiled. "Ma'am, this isn't my car. It's not even the same model." "Impossible." Sandra snatched the phone back, looking furiously at the screen. "It's a silver sedan with... Mine is a 2019 Corolla. This is a newer Camry. And if you look closely, you'll see that the license plate starts with Whiskey Delta X-Ray. Mine starts with Juliet Lima Tango. I can show you my documents." Sandra looked at the photo again, zooming in on the image. Heat began to rise up her neck, to her cheeks. The crowd watched, breaths suspended. And then came the moment when everyone expected her surrender, her apology. But that's not what happened. "How can I be sure you're not lying?" she insisted, voice lower, but still accusatory. "You could have more than one car." The situation had crossed the border of reasonable, entering the territory of the absurd. Nervous laughter began to emerge among the spectators. The security guard finally approached. "Ma'am, I think we need to—" Thomas raised his hand, interrupting him gently. "It's okay. I understand her frustration." He turned to Sandra, not with irritation or superiority, but with something surprising, genuine empathy. "Someone hit your new car. You're upset. You have every right to be. And now you're late for something important. Aren't you?" Sandra's eyes widened. "How do you know?" Thomas smiled, a tired but gentle smile. "You've looked at your watch 3 times in the last 2 minutes, and there's a folded ballet program sticking out of your bag." A moment of silence. The tension began to melt like ice in the sun. "My daughter," Sandra began, her voice suddenly choked. "It's her first solo. And now I'm here, acting like a crazy woman, and I'm going to miss everything." No one expected what Thomas said next. "Go. Now." Sandra blinked, confused. "What?" "Your daughter needs you there. The car can wait." "She can't." Thomas looked at his watch. "If you leave now, you can still see her solo." "But I need to. Write down your contact on this paper. After you watch your daughter's performance, I'll help you find whoever hit your car." Sandra looked at him, stunned. "Why would you do that? After the way I treated you?" Thomas's answer silenced the entire supermarket. "Because I spent 3 years in Afghanistan, seeing what happens when people choose conflict before understanding." His voice was soft, but reached every ear. "I've seen what people lose when they let themselves be consumed by anger, by pride, by the need to be right." He bent down, starting to carefully collect the shards of glass. "Your daughter will only have this moment once in her life. Don't miss it because of a fender bender." An employee approached with a broom and dustpan. "Leave this to us, sir." Thomas accepted the help, getting up. The silence was almost reverent now. Sandra frantically searched for a piece of paper in her bag, scribbled her number, and handed it to Thomas with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't even know your name." Thomas Mason. Sandra Davis. I'm really sorry." Then Thomas said, "Go. She's waiting." Sandra nodded, a tear rolling, and ran towards the exit. People watched. No one recording with cell phones anymore. No one laughing. Just witnessing something rare and precious. Thomas returned to his shopping, aware of the looks, of the murmuring, of the newly formed respect. 3 hours later, as he put his few bags in the trunk of his silver Corolla, Thomas heard a voice call his name. Sandra was walking towards him, but different, smiling. Beside her, a girl of about 10 years old, still wearing a white tutu and stage makeup. "Thomas, this is my daughter Emma. She really wanted to meet you." The girl smiled shyly. "Mom said you're a hero. Not like in the movies, but for real." Thomas crouched down to be at her eye level. "Your mom exaggerates, and I heard that you are the real star today." "I got all the steps right," Emma grinned with pride. "Mom recorded everything." Sandra touched Thomas's shoulder. "We found the car. It was similar to yours, almost identical. The owner left the insurance contact. Everything will be fine. I'm glad. Sandra hesitated, then continued. But that's not why we came back. We wanted to thank you. You transformed what could have been the worst day into something. She searched for the right word. Redemptive. The crowd that had watched the scene in the morning was dispersed, but the impact remained. That night, dozens of family dinners would begin with, "You won't believe what I saw at the supermarket today." A manager would tell his wife how he decided to implement a new system to help customers with special needs. Inspired by the calm veteran who changed the atmosphere of the entire establishment. A teenager would post online, "Today I learned more about courage in 5 minutes at the supermarket than in years of action movies." And Thomas, in his quiet apartment, would receive a message from Sandra with a video of Emma's performance, along with a simple text. "Thank you for reminding me what really matters, for having someone that I didn't deserve." There was a murmur of approval among the onlookers. The supermarket manager, who had approached ready to intervene if necessary, smiled with relief. "And I appreciate your understanding," Thomas replied. "Now, shall we see if we can find out who is responsible for your car?" As the two of them walked together towards the exit, something extraordinary began to happen in the supermarket. The people who had witnessed the encounter began to talk to one another, not as strangers, but as if they shared something meaningful. An older gentleman remarked to the young woman next to him, "That reminds me that we need to give people the benefit of the doubt." In another aisle, a mother who witnessed everything explained to her son, "See how he didn't respond with anger? That's how we solve problems." The supermarket security guard, a normally taciturn man, helped an elderly lady reach a product on the high shelf, something he rarely did. When Thomas returned to the supermarket an hour later, many people were still there. Sandra was not with him, but he was smiling. A female employee approached him as he resumed his shopping. "Did you find the car?" she asked. Thomas nodded. Yes, it was a Honda Civic, but dark green, not blue. The guy hadn't even noticed he'd hit it. He was mortified when we showed him the damage, offered to pay for everything on the spot. "And the lady?" She seemed so distraught. Thomas smiled. "Sandra's doing fine now. You know what she told me before we left? That this was the best accident she's ever had." The employee looked confused. "Because," Thomas explained, "she said she learned something today. That sometimes our worst moments can turn into the best, if we meet the right person along the way." When Thomas finally left the supermarket with his groceries, he noticed something different. People smiled at him. Some waved, as if he were an old friend. One lady even touched his arm gently and whispered, "Thank you." He hadn't done anything extraordinary in his opinion, just treated someone with the dignity that everyone deserves. But that day, in an ordinary supermarket, in an ordinary city, he had reminded everyone of a powerful truth, that a moment of understanding can transform a conflict into connection. And maybe, just maybe, some of those people would take that lesson into their own lives, creating small waves of kindness that would spread far beyond that supermarket parking lot. If this story touched you, consider how a simple act of understanding can change a difficult situation. And if you would like to hear more stories like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because sometimes all we need to transform the world is to change the way we respond to it, one encounter at a time.